The honourable member for Halton.
Thank you. I'd like to start by thanking the gallery. I think there's well over 300 people here from Oakville, which I think speaks seriously as to how emotional and how important this issue is to the people of Oakville. And that it speaks volumes when 300 people will take a day out of their life to come down to Queen's Park to let the government know how seriously they feel about this. The member for Oakville mentioned waiting to the drive home. It's that drive home, as well as the drive in the morning in rush hour, which puts the Oakville Clarkson airshed under a lot of stress. It is one of the most stressed airsheds in Ontario and indeed in Canada, for that matter. That is not just a statistic that sits on paper. Oakville and people within the Clarkson airshed have their children in that airshed under the age of 19 have the highest incidence of respiratory diseases in Canada, and that's the human element of a stressed airshed. So when we talk about a stressed airshed, and that's one thing. The facts supplement that, and back up that. But the real effect of that is the respiratory diseases that we see in our children, also in anybody who are in their senior years are also affected with breathing issues. And this plant, this proposed plant, is of 900 megawatts. That's a huge plant. If you've seen the plant on 401, just west of Trafalgar Road in Halton Hills, that plant is just over 600 megawatts. The Oakville plant will be a third larger than that. It will sit on 13.5 acres. I think Kevin referred to this, whereas the Halton Hills plant sits on 79 acres. It's a very, very small piece of land that the Oakville plant sits on, or is proposed to sit on, and it is just that much closer to its neighbours. And I'm wondering, when this was proposed, I'm just wondering who in the government, in the bureaucracy, in the power generators, who would have thought that this would be a good idea. As far as the safety is concerned, again, it's been mentioned that there's 1,100 homes, 16 schools, many senior residences, childcare, all within the limits of less than what is proposed under Bill 8. And again, I wonder who, in the decision-making process, would have thought that this was a good idea. This plant is being built because we need the electricity, or so we're told. When this plant was planned back in 2004, 2005, that area, the peak demand for the province of Ontario was around 27,000 megawatts. That was in a day in July when all the air conditioners in the province was turned on. The province was operating at a fairly high level of economic activity, and over 27,000 megawatts were used on that day in July in 2005. Since that time, every year, the peak period for that year has declined. And that declining is continuing until 2009, when the peak demand was 22,000 megawatts, some 5,000 megawatts less than we used in 2005. Now, certainly we're in a recession. We have been in a recession. We're beginning to come out of that recession. And hopefully, as we come out of that recession, our electrical demands will rise again with the increasing economy. However, there's been a significant restructuring in the economy in Ontario. And that economy may not see the same demand for electricity in the future that we have seen in the past. I've been in a lot of manufacturing facilities in my time, and the 100 horsepower electric motors that used to draw tremendous amounts of power are rapidly becoming a thing of the past. We're seeing much smaller engines, much more efficient equipment producing the same amount of products. So whether or not we're ever going to climb back to those areas and given that we already have a 600-megawatt plant in Halton, I seriously question whether this plant is needed now, or indeed will be needed any time in the near future. And if it is needed in the future, certainly there can be a location found that would be much safer, much larger, and much more conducive to its operation than the place that they have selected for this on the Ford lands on such a small piece of property. I certainly remain to be convinced that we need this plant at all. The other problem that I have with this, the only problem I have with this bill, is that in Clause 2, subsection 3, where it says this section does not apply to a person who constructs, installs, or expands a natural gas power plant if, on a day before this Act comes into force, all the approvals, permits, and other instruments that are required under any Act to construct, install, or expand a natural gas power plant have been obtained. It is on the website of TransCanada. It's suggested that they will have their ducks in a row. They'll have their instruments approved by the end of summer, early fall of this year. That means that this bill will have to pass third reading prior to June 3rd, when this House rises for its summer recess. In passing this bill in that time frame, it would go a long way to protect the people of Oakville, particularly the people that live in that precise area, so close to this plant. And that's why I will be supporting this bill, as will the members of the PC caucus. It's for the safety and lifestyles and the health of the people of Oakville, and the people of Ontario. All the people of Ontario deserve to have that known. Further, after this vote is taken, in about an hour and a half, I believe, a little less than an hour and a half, I will move, ask for unanimous consent again, Mr. Speaker, and move that we move directly to third reading of this bill, so that this bill will be in a position to avoid going to committee and come back to this House in the immediate future for third reading, to ensure that it gets past the legislative hurdles of being passed in this House by June 3rd. And I look forward to the passing of this bill. I look forward to this government supporting the passing of this bill and bringing health and safety back to Ontario, and indeed to the residents of Oakville. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.